Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about something that I've talked about loads to one extent or another in the past, but never in a kind of like all together thing. And as a and I want to add some extra to it just for some context, and that is that I've been asked time and time again, which again I got reminded of the other day, which is why I'm now doing this video. But I've been asked time and time again why all of the various bits and pieces that I take a look at, all of the different profiling things, all of the different models, all the different little bits and pieces here and there, especially, why are all of them made up of like 4 pieces? And as a result, I was like, do you know what? There is a reason for this. And it seems to be a reason that isn't talked about very often for various reasons. I don't know exactly why. I'm not one of the people, I'm not a psychologist or something that has developed these straight off. I'm just someone that applies them to the work that I do now. But, why it's not further discussed as to why there are those 4-part patterns, I don't know. But as a result, I want to take a look at them. So the first one that I've discussed a lot and also refer back to an awful lot is DISC, which is the 4 kind of key major areas of people's kind of personality types almost, where you've got dominance and influence being traits that are very much more towards extroversion, and then you've got support and compliance being much more towards introversion or active and passive. And then on top of that, you've got the other split, which isn't really demonstrated in the way that I've just got it as a line here above my head, but where you've got the dominance and compliance kind of areas being much more task focused than the influence and support being much more people focused. But then on top of that, I've gone over that a load. I did a whole video on each section of that a while ago. And I reference it an awful lot. But then we've also got the DVEI, which is emotional and kind of relationship health, more so than anything else, where with DISC, you've got your different levels of all of those 4 things, and that allows you a little bit more kind of introspection, understanding of yourself, understanding of the patterns that you're working to, stuff like that, within specific situations, whilst DVEI is very much more a focus towards the kind of the balance in a relationship, where you're looking for a balance between the 2 people on all of these areas, and there's a reason for the balance, which we'll get into in a minute. But again, that's this area where you can apply it to someone's relationship, you can apply it to the way that it's operating, and as long as to one degree or another those things are all balanced out, then chances are they're having quite a happy time in their relationship. Then the next one that I've covered in the past was, and you can't see my face anymore, but hey, was Bartle's Taxonomy here, where you've got, this is the analysis of gamers of different types of individual you would find in online spaces or in games, whereby you've got the killer who's very much out to go and do things. You've got the out and kill people, rather, out and leverage themselves, impose themselves on others. You've got the explorer that's just out to go and do things, explore, test the limits of the system and stuff like that. You've got the socialite who just wants to hang with friends, and then you've got the achiever who very much wants to, he's the person who wants the highest score, he's the person who wants the best gold, the amount of gold, the best armor, the best whatever. But the thing is, in all of these different things that we've covered so far, that I've done videos on in the past, why are there only four elements to it? Why are there all of these things? And the simple reason is that it's our biology. And I go over this time and time again, that it all relates back to biology, it all relates back to our corpus. It's annoying me that I can't see you guys. There you go, hi. But as a result, there is a reason for this, and that is, oh, I've broken it. I moved things. I've moved everything. It's broken, guys. There we go. But it's all related to neurochemicals. It's all related to those those biological triggers in our brain, those chemicals that are floating around. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that focuses very much more around kind of our perception of resource and value and worth. In fact, let's get rid of those quickly now that I've displayed it. There we go. That's neater, and you can actually see my mouth and whatever else now. But you've got serotonin, which is very much focused around perception of resource, of perception of value. You've got endorphins that are a painkiller. You've got oxytocin, which is obviously the bonding love drug, which we hear so much about. And then you've got dopamine, which is the highly addictive drug, the mental like brain chemical that causes you to get addicted to things. Is released by substances like beer, and so on and so forth, and it gets you into those cycles of doing things, those habits that can be good in some kind of form of moderation, but otherwise are likely to kind of drive you off in different directions. But as a result, this is why we've got this breakdown into 4. Now there is another major kind of neurochemical or chemical generally. It's not really a neurochemical, but another substance in your body that is part of this, but it's not happiness focused. It's more fear and survival focused. And as a result, maybe I'll talk about that in the future. It's one that gets talked about a lot in regards to cortisol. It's the drug of fight or flight, or the chemical of fight or flight. And so that's kind of out of this. But when it comes to happiness, when it comes to enjoying a thing, so DISC, very much about learning about yourself so that you can progress, so that you can be happy in yourself, happy in your life, in the way that you're applying yourself to it. Yeah, it's why it's such a great tool for coaching, because it allows you to work towards those things that you want, those things that make you happy, but in your way, and it allows you that extra awareness in your kind of generation of options, your generation of ideas, your approach to things, because awareness is key. DVEI, you want a balance across all of them so that you can have a happy and stable relationship. Bartle's Taxonomy, in a game you want a good spread of all of those people to balance things out, so that you don't have a game that is only for killers where it drives everyone else that wants to engage with the game away, or one that is only for socialites where all of the other 3 just get bored. It's you don't want those kind of things. You want that balance for a happier, better built experience for everybody. And the reason why is really and truly you're going to want a balance of these neurochemicals in your body. Even if you're more driven one way than another, you are going to want them not to the unstable, unhealthy amounts. You're going to want them within kind of one reasonable limit of one another as possible. For instance, me being a D-type personality, a dominant personality by DISC standards, it kind of isn't that much, that it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that I also tend to be an insomniac, which again tends to relate to serotonin. An increase in serotonin is also an increase of awareness, because you are aware of the people around you, the values that they have, and so on and so forth. The more shots of serotonin you get, you're more on the ball with that. It's almost a drug of status and application of status as much as it is recognition of resource, but it's still very much a perceptive drug. It's one that is very much about kind of improving awareness on things as more of it gets into your body. So as a result, it kind of follows that, if I have a large amount of serotonin and that enforces my behavior, then you would expect me to also be potentially more dominant. It's not 100% concrete by any stretch. This is just patterns between the different models and things, but this is the thing that stands out to me. With serotonin, you're very much being reflected on by people. We can fool ourselves. We can go, I'm wearing this amazing label. I got this amazing iPhone. Take a look at what I got. I don't have an iPhone. iPhone is shit. But anyway, every time you pick up an iPhone and you attribute value to it, and then you get to show it off, you get to improve your status, you get to demonstrate you're resource rich. then you get a shot of serotonin for going, yep, well done. Yeah, it's that kind of impact of kind of tricking yourself, recognizing kind of based on material things as well, that allows us to potentially get kind of overrun with serotonin, when ordinarily it would be a case of status and resource being recognized to put one person in charge, to put one person at the head of a situation because of what they have, because of the value that they bring. You know, it's very much a hierarchical thing. It's almost a leadership thing, where the biggest, strongest, most aggressive individual will be allowed to eat first in a pack of wolves or something, because that way, with serotonin being triggered here, there, and everywhere to one degree or another, they are allowing the strong one to eat first, so that they may retain their strength, so that then, should trouble arise, that one can go and tackle that. You know, it's one of the reasons why, when we see leaders not doing a great job, we instinctively know that they're being shit, that they're bad, because we have given them status, and yet they are the ones that are just taking things for themselves and not protecting the group. It's what we get frustrated about. Endorphins being released, you know, natural painkiller, very much a thing that supports the kind of idea of variety, of flitting between things. Laughter is a big releaser of endorphins, because if it weren't for kind of laughter releasing the endorphins and killing the pain, then us jiggling around our insides would hurt so much more. We've all had those times when we bend over and kind of roll across the floor laughing, and it hurts so much we can't breathe. Imagine that if we had no kind of block on the amount of pain and shaking around that we're doing as a result. You know, that would be quite substantial. And so as a result, here, you know, we've got people who are engaging with one another, who are influenced by things and environments and whatever else, and it's kind of new. It's going out and it's finding these things, and it's putting yourself into these new precarious situations that potentially will lead to pain, that will lead to all of these things. But also they tend to be like a very high I-type personality is the stereotypically kind of bubbly, low attention span, running around talking to everyone, having a laugh, fun-loving individual. And as a result, yeah, guess what? That's going to be a big kind of release of endorphins, a big release of those kind of painkillers as you run. And so that's a thing. It's those new situations. It's that new environment that you're experiencing that puts you in potentially harm's way, that allows for the laughter, the bonding, the whatever else, and the shots of endorphins that run with it. It's why when we laugh, we feel better. When we exercise, we feel better. We won't feel better 2 or 3 hours down the line, but we'll feel better. And so as a result, when we're doing those things with other people, with endorphins being released, we have a positive association with those people. That's why influencing people, the influence-focused people, are going to be running around meeting all these people, doing all these crazy things, never going to be able to say no, always going to be putting themselves in these potentially stressful situations, but they're going to love it, because every time they do it, they get this dose of painkiller. They get this positive association because they feel great. Oxytocin, now this shouldn't be all that surprising. You know, it's a drug that the chemical that very much focuses around bonding and the strength of kind of physical contact and bonding around kind of closeness. And as a result, it's no real surprise that things like supportiveness from the disc side of things, where you are willing to put yourself out for the group. You very much take a back seat as long as the group is happy, because you want to bond with the group. Again, that kind of follows with the socialite in games, where they just want to hang with their friends. It doesn't matter what they're doing, it's just that they want to hang with people because people are great. And again, it's the emotion, it's the physical kind of chemical behind emotional bonding through relationships. You know, if you didn't hug your partner, then that emotional kind of physical reinforcement wouldn't exist, and it would be potentially quite hard to continue a relationship that way, where there wasn't any kind of physical, tangible reinforcement of the feelings that you have. You know, your honeymoon period would end, and then potentially you would be kind of you drop down into being miserable, and that's where you need to keep generating, for instance, in regards to long distance relationships. Even though you don't have the physical there all the time, you need to have an even appreciation of the emotional, so that you can provide emotional support, so that you can continue to generate both positive and negative emotions, and then reinforce that with physical, all of those emotions with physical bonding when you do get to see each other. Give each other a big hug. I know that when I see Hannah, I hug her a lot because I missed her so much. It's a fairly kind of straightforward reinforcement of what we've been putting together, just as emotions being transferred back and forth on a more cognitive, mental level, being reinforced by something tangible, that then you can feel it. It's not just a case of, well, I can feel it, but it's all in the forebrain. It's all where I'm just talking about stuff. It's the case of having to tackle it in the brain at the back, where your body is actually maintaining itself, it's regulating itself, it's properly feeling. And then we've got compliance, and with dopamine rather, which is very much the drug of addiction. It's the drug of habit. It's if you create yourself a list, and each time you tick off, each time you achieve a thing, then you get a dose of dopamine. Every time you pull a lever on a one-armed bandit, you get a dose of dopamine when you win, and you crave that cycle. It's what Skinner boxes rely on, that investment of time and focus and attention to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again for kind of periodic rewards. It's those periodic rewards. Each time you do it, it's a release of dopamine. Each time the dopamine hits your system, it's like cocaine. It just hits your body and you're feeling amazing. And then, unfortunately, because it's addictive and because of the way that it functions, it builds up. We build up tolerance to it over time, and that's where you get the extremes of kind of alcoholism and gambling and addiction in various other forms. It's where you'll have the killer who will want to continually kill people to have that status over others, to kind of impose that kind of social resource and that awareness over others. The explorer with their endorphin rush, they're going to be finding new things and they're going to be putting themselves in harm's way just to see if they can find a thing, and it's going to be awesome. The socialite is just there with friends and is loving it. The achiever, though, the achiever is the person that when they've got their list of things to do in a game or whatever else, then they are going to run through that list until they've got everything, and it won't matter if it takes days or months. They will grind their way through it until they have every single achievement point, every single whatever else, their huge in-game bank balance of things that they want. And it will be because each time they achieve, there'll be a dopamine release, and that's why those are those people are, arguably from my experience at any rate, the people that are likely to sit down in front of a game and grind and grind and grind. And as long as they're seeing progress, they will absolutely love it. And this is where we've even on comments on the channel here, we've seen people who don't feel like they're achieving enough. There's no just I'm focused on the result, so I'm going straight to it. It's I'm not achieving enough to get enough of a hit enough of a dopamine hit each time I'm fulfilling a thing on my list. There's just not enough advancement fast enough to keep up the flow of dopamine that I want. And again, jumping into compliance, they're about the process. Why? Because the process is ticking things off a list. It's not getting from the beginning to the end and just being, right, I've got the end, good job. In which case, result equals resource equals serotonin. In regards to dopamine, it's very much about the process. It's about ticking off the things on the list, because each thing you tick off, you get another dose of like natural cocaine. And so as a result, that's what you're kind of feeding off. And then in regards to the emotional or immersive, I suppose, part of the DVEI thing, dopamine is that in the moment kind of interaction. It's the getting sucked up by it. It's the focus. And guess what's happening in the moment? You're not getting a result. That's what happens afterwards. That's what happens in review. You're not necessarily exploring new things. You're not necessarily directly emotional with someone. You know, the immersion side of things is just enjoying the moment with the other person. It is living the process. It's each new thing that you interact with during that thing. Each tiny little advancement that you get is going to be the process, and that's where you're going to sit, and that's where the dopamine is going to be released with each tiny advancement, each tiny achievement, each new thing that you conquer and move on from. That's where you are. So obviously, if you've got a decent balance of all of these happy chemicals in your body, then that means that you're going to have, for things like DVEI, you're going to have a fairly even keel across being able to apply yourselves to those, because you're not going to have one outweighing the other. You're not going to be so focused about living in the moment that you're kind of stuck there. You're going to be open to the more emotive side, where the emotive side doesn't necessarily relate one way or the other. And also with things like oxytocin and serotonin, they tend to work somewhat counter to endorphins and dopamine. They tend to cause a balance to be struck. And so, involving yourself in all of them in a balance allows actually physically going, right, well, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to these levels. It's where DVEI is a great monitoring tool. It allows you to go, right, well, I need to do this to this level, this to this level, this to this level, and this to this level, and we need to agree on it, and we're going to support each other going through it. And as a result, that forces, it's taking actions to force your body to respond. It's like smiling to make yourself feel happier. You take the action first when you feel miserable, and then your brain picks up on it and follows suit. And again, it's this interesting move. Now I'm obviously, I didn't want this video to be super long and break each thing down, but I just wanted to explain why these models tend to be in 4 parts. Obviously, I'm dulling down and not going through the full extent of the neurochemical angle, but again, it's like these are the patterns. These are the kind of derivations, if you like, from what happens in our body, the things that are triggering some of these behaviors, the chemicals that are involved very directly in the feelings and in the patterns and behaviors that we follow, that inform these other models. Especially in regards to things like DVEI, where it is the other one that is based mostly on balance instead of more indication, and taking action towards balance as opposed to just indication, where DISC is just indicating where your focuses are and what behaviors you're going to be following with, and as a result making you aware of them so that you can better plan, better apply yourself to things. Bartle's taxonomy is more of a planning situation again, where you can look at what's applicable to each type of player, each type of person being involved in your activity, and see where they can apply themselves and if there's enough space for each person. But obviously, where happiness is concerned, happiness is very intrinsically attached to relationships a lot of the time. We're social animals, and so as a result, it's no surprise that a balance in these neurochemicals and a balance in DVEI are linked, essentially. And there's a lot more that can be said around these things. If you're looking for more information on these things, then one of the people that I would look up is Simon Sinek, who I've mentioned in other videos before. But he talks about this stuff at length, quite considerably. Not so much in regards to the models, but especially in regards to the neurochemical angle and the biological relation, and that socializing and working together is very much a way to happiness, which I can't disagree with at all, as long as everyone's on the same page, that is. But otherwise, guys, let me get rid of this. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down in the comments. I know that there are some people who have come to the channel, maybe started watching the gaming videos or found these videos directly, who have found them interesting afterwards, in which case I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you're kind of one of the students that I know is watching that's qualifying in this kind of area, these areas of psychology and whatever else. But otherwise, guys, I hope you just found it interesting, because this stuff is one of the things that I really love about coaching and stuff, because I can go in, I can help people. I love doing that. But then the addition to that is I get to talk about and look into and work my way through stuff like this that's just fascinating. the patterns in people, where the patterns stem from. It's terrific. It's fascinating, genuinely. But either way, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on anything that we've discussed in this video. Check out, if you haven't checked out the other videos, then on DISC and on DVEI and on whatever else, then please go ahead and do so. I will leave links to the playlists that they are in the description. And otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.